Hello and welcome to the Investor Financing Podcast. And on today's show, we have a very, very special guest. And of course, I'm your host, Bo Eckstein. And I like to bring all different kind of conversations to our channel or to the people that are listening that aren't watching on YouTube later after this is edited. But today's topic, I think, is going to hit home with a lot of us because we're not only just talking about real estate investing, we're talking about challenging ourselves and setting up consistent practices that eventually over time lead to success. So our guest has been a good friend of mine for many, many years. We met through some real estate functions. Gosh, it's probably going on 7 or 8 years. I don't know exactly, but it's been a long time. The one thing about our guest Tariel is that he was a lot like me in a way that I could always find him at an event. Maybe even more so that he went to more events than I did. He was always learning, always trying to improve little by little, one foot in front of the other.
Hi, this is Tariel with TTG Builders. I'm here to present to you my best project to date in San Carlos Hills. If you see anything that you like, definitely contact me.
Tariel is a third generation builder, a real estate investor, amongst many other things. He owns some long-term rental assets as well. And he's very, very versed because not only is he just like a real estate investor, he comes from the construction background, which gives you a little bit different breadth about how to get things done. He can do heavier value add projects. He does some luxury renovations, which have them, those have to be dialed in because you're dealing with $2, $3, $4 million sale prices, right? You have a very particular buyer. He's been very good at, I would say, not timing the market, but I remember on that one deal you did in the Bay Area, you kind of took it off the market and you put it back on the market because you knew you could get the price you wanted to, and you ended up getting the price you wanted to. And you were carrying a lot of debt on that property because it was a big purchase and acquisition. But Tariel has a kind of a sixth sense for real estate, because I think sometimes everything's about timing. The market, although it's been upwards for many years, as we all know, there are some times to list properties, times not to list properties. And Tariel is really good at knowing the market and knowing the finishes to put on properties, which is another huge art within house flipping, is what level of finishes for what type of property. I remember I did a walkthrough on a renovation you did in Oakland, and you were, not only is he proud of his work, because a lot of flippers out there, it's just business for them. Like, they don't care about the craftsmanship, where, you're a third generation builder. You actually give a darn about what you're putting out there. And I remember him walking me through the property and showing me like the bathroom, the features of even the toilet, that he goes to the extreme, and he knows it's a business, but he also puts pride behind the work, which is different with some people that this is just a commodity, and it's, let's get the cheapest flooring we can do and try to sell it for top dollar. I see the difference in craftsmanship. So welcome to the show. Why don't you give a little bit of an intro?
Well, hello everybody. Bo, thank you for having me over. It's definitely a privilege for me to be here, and I think after this kind of introduction, it's kind of tough for me to top that. But yeah, absolutely, it's been definitely all right, and definitely there's a lot of things to share about it. A little bit about myself. Yes, I was in the real estate construction field. Well, construction field I was for all of my life. Both of my parents are in construction. My dad used to run a very large company, and I was actually involved in the building of Russian space launch center. And that was something that was his baby. He started building that in the 50s, and through the end of his life, he's been involved in that. He passed away sadly 10 years ago, but now I'm here right now trying to fill the shoes, of my parents. My mom, she was also in construction in her times, and she was building landing strips, highways, bridges, and so I was always involved in that. So I could say, construction wise, I'm pretty well versed, experience since I was a child. Real estate is something that I went to by luck, by the association of hanging out with the people that been developing, and I got into real estate 20 years ago. It was in Bay Area in San Francisco Bay, and for me it was kind of marrying two different professions, marrying the construction skill and the interest for the value add. right? And the first thing that was actually for me, I haven't started in residential and flipping and moved over to multifamily. Actually, for me, it was a completely different way, the opposite. I started in multifamily. We've done the Burr model 20 years ago. We didn't know that what it was called. We didn't know that there were other investors involved in this. We didn't even know that we called investors. At that point, yes, we were buying assets. We were finding funds for it. Doesn't matter where it was. We were buying properties off the market, multifamily properties, and rehabbing them. Some things eventually, after about 5-7 years, actually going right into the 2008-2007 crisis, we started building from scratch. We started doing value adds in terms of increasing the square footage, converting the fourplexes into multiple units, what now we call additional dwelling units. Used to be, we used to be doing regular units before. So adding value in that sense, and we still hold the most of that portfolio here in the Bay, and we have pretty good basis on that. And that consistency, I would say, paid off. And now I'm more inclined towards larger development. So my eventual goal is to build a 60-story skyscraper. And matter of fact is, it's a matter of, compound effect in that sense. I've built up to 3 stories. My next goal is build up to the 4 stories and going compounding from there, compounding to 6 stories, eventually to 12 and so on, to get to my goal of 60 stories eventually. That's the goal and that's the vision.
I love it. That's awesome. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit here. And like I said, Tariel and I have been friends for a long time, but what sparked my reach out, not only did I want to, we haven't got to see each other because of COVID, and now I live in Las Vegas and all that stuff, but Tariel put a post on social media, and I was so impressed. I, obviously responded that, hey, what amazing results you had and this and that. And then I felt inclined to give him a call and just say hello, because it's been a while. And I wanted to bring him on the show, not only to talk about real estate, this and that, but also he's just made an amazing transformation. He did the 75 hard challenge. And Tariel, will you tell us what the 75 hard challenge is for the viewers that don't know what it is?
Right. So 75 hard challenge is something it's a challenge that was created by Andy Frisella in 2019. I think it was for him, it was work of putting together different amazing things different things that make us amazing. I'll put it that way, that make us strong, right? So his challenge consisted of the workouts, consisted of following the diet, following the water intake. So all of the great things, the good things that actually make you healthier and help you achieve the goal. But the biggest thing behind the 75 challenge was the mental toughness, an ability to do all those things without any compromise, with zero compromise, for a specific amount of time. And we all heard that in order for us to create a habit, we have to do something for 21 days. I think that's the cliche saying, which in fact is, it can be a case sometimes, but in many cases it's not. I think the research showed it's anywhere between 16 to 300 and some 365 times that you have to do something in order for you to follow through. His specific challenge, why it was 75 days, it was because he was limited on time, and for him, he only had 75 days to reach something in order for him to prove, to win a challenge that he was going into. But he made a program out of that, and what it does, like I said, it consists of the exercise, it consists of the food intake, the water intake. It consists of a very important factor of reading, reading something, something tangible, a physical book that's not fiction. And the most important thing, while you're doing all that for 75 days, giving giving no compromise, that means like if you're on a diet and your diet does not allow you to put a nut in your mouth on day 3, which wasn't case it was the case in my diet, you spit that out. And if you didn't spit that out, if you chewed on it and you swallowed it, you go back on day 1. So if it's day 47, if it's day 74 and you're finishing tomorrow and you put that nut in your mouth, you have to start over on the phase 1. So that's what I did. I did two of those last year. The first one I didn't know much about it. I just heard from from my surrounding. I have an amazing surrounding of achievers, overachievers, high achievers. And they talked about it, and weight goal was my goal. And I've been working out for the last 7 years, Bo, and like she shared, we go back a while. And, it's always been my thing. I've been working out for actually going on 8 years now. April 7th, 2014, that's when I started. I've been doing P90X, T25, and all those different fun things. But I didn't have consistency to that. Or I had compromises, right? So what happened is, yes, I'm in pretty good shape, but my body fat was above the average, my BMI was above the average, and my weight was I have a 5'11" frame, and I was too heavy for my frame. I was like over two. I think I reached out to 126 pounds when I started doing that, and then I've been averaging about 210. Now, after taking two different challenges of 75 hard, one I did, how we say, it's without the rolled up sleeves. I just did it. I followed what I knew, and I had a good result. Beginning of the year, it was 18 pounds of lost weight, and I think it was 2% body fat, which was amazing for me. In 75 days, it was great to achieve. Whereas, the second part of the year, I realized, I wasn't really doing that good of a job, and I decided to do that right before the end of the year. How people have set themselves resolutions at the beginning of the year. Well, I decided to go for the hardest time, I would say. When you have holidays, I have both of my kids' birthdays in that time. I mean, you have Halloween, you have Christmas, you have New Year's, you have all those different things, and you have holiday parties. And I decided to go for that because it was challenging, and the most important thing, I had a goal set up for myself for 2021 that I was about to miss. So that's why I took the second turnaround and took zero compromises that time, and had a much better result with twice more weight loss at 39.5 pounds, at 39.7, something like this, 4% body fat loss within that 75 hard challenge, and 5.1 BMI. So, and I read 7 books while I was doing that. I worked out for, I think it was like 80, I lost 85,000 active calories, and I worked out for something of the sort of, I think it's like 89 hours or something like that. Oh, sorry, I apologize. The workouts counted to 200 hours. So
Wow.
Of the 75 within that 75 days. Yeah. So it's 200 hours. That's what the stats.
And so I've done the 75 hard challenge too, and I have only done it once, and I had really good results, but nothing near what Tariel had on his second attempt of the 75 hard challenge. And after you do this, Andy's created some other challenges that go up and above this. So I did it because I just wanted the discipline. It's easy for me if I have like just a system to follow and it's simple. There's even an app, guys. There's an app you can use on your phone. You can take a picture every day. He wants you to take a picture every day, read at least 10 pages, drink a gallon of water, 2 workouts. One of the workouts has to be outside, and a couple other things. I'm going to link below the website so you can see the challenge yourself if you guys want to do it. I highly encourage all of you to do it. I'm going to do it again here. I got to pick a date when I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it again. I really enjoyed it. But this time I'm going to try to kind of fine tune, because every time you fine tune something in life, it's going to get better. And like this time was a perfect example. Your second time around, you did it and you had great results. And I think this is something that you can do once a year. You could do it every couple months, and it just keeps you on. And that really helps people kind of, because Tariel and I have similar personalities where we like to indulge on food and wine and things like that. Whereas like you get on this and you can't, and you got to go 75 days of just being very strict. And kind of like the point of this show too is yeah, we talk about real estate, but really like the fundamentals in life and like these kind of challenges are the things that move your business the most, I think, because everything I've seen, like there's people out there that everything comes easy for them, but for me, for Tariel, it's nothing comes easy. It's about putting what we were talking about this on the phone yesterday. Putting one foot in front of the other is the key, because you might not be as fortunate as the guy next door to you, and he might just hit home runs every time he does a real estate project. But what I saw the difference between what Tariel does, he was at events all the time pre-COVID, obviously. He was networking. He's probably one of the most networked guys in real estate, because with intention, he made it a point to go and network with everybody. So people would bring him deals. He would get private lending partners sometimes because he would network with people that didn't have the construction background, that might have had a couple $100,000. So I think that's crucial, is that, you know, if you look at what he's done, he's over time, he's just built, he's done one step in front of the other, and he's just, you know, slowly getting momentum, like, and it didn't come quickly, right? Like it's not like one day he was able to be this disciplined. It's from really working at it. And sure, he's done the P90X and he's, you know, gained a bunch of weight back and went, you know, drinking and partying and eating and good foods. And sure, he's still going to indulge a little bit. But what I like about these challenges is that over time they get kind of ingrained in your body, where it's like, if you're not working at 100%, you feel a little bit, you feel down, actually. So that's why I brought you on the show, is because I think it's very inspirational. I can't wait to show the pictures. And then can you kind of talk about like your philosophy on, like, I think this is important because there's I get calls from a lot of newbies that want financing, right? Because I do financing for a living. And, you know, it's like, I got a guy the other day and he was a contractor, and, you know, at the last minute he got cold feet on this project, which I don't blame him. And he called me and said, hey, I had spent time with him on the phone, like going back and forth on loans. He was so nervous. And there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, are doing their first or second or third project. They're new, right? And they're, you know, they expect things to happen quickly, and they're not yet. I think if you can convey like your mindset on personal development, and like, you know, if you want to be a real estate investor, how you go about like networking, getting in the right groups and things like that. I think you're really good at that, Tariel, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail right on the head in terms of, you know, 75 hard and you know, real estate and business in general, because the whole idea behind 75 hard is mental toughness. When we do something, and I'm going to repeat myself multiple times this time, that it's a consistency, right? It's a consistency that's important, and the compromises that you take while you're doing that. So it applies to everything, and why your fitness and your health and fitness values and goals, they are so related to how you achieve, you know, success in the business as well. As much, you know, effort that you're putting, and the consistency that you put that every day, putting that foot in front of the other every day, and seeing the results eventually. I think, and I'm going to go back in terms of, you know, how we see right now in general, all of us, we're so used to the instant gratification right now. We're so used to pick up the phone and, you know, be upset that it, you know, didn't recognize our face right away. And, you know, that it takes us, you know, 2-3 times to do that. You know, that kind of instant gratification starts at that level already. But the whole point is, if we start applying small actions that we know are going to change us or our business every day consistently, without hesitation, without compromises, eventually we'll see results. And you know what, the great book that I'm going to share, that I think that, you know, that changed my mind back in the days, and actually reread it during this time of the 75 hard, is The Compound Effect. It's what we do, you know, it's what we do, the good things that we do, the good habits that we take in order for us to change something, right? So in the beginning, we're not going to see the result. God, in the middle of that, we might not going to see the result, but behind the scenes, everything is changing. And the author is putting very good example of that. You know, if you imagine the boiling water, if you take a water that's fairly cold, before it reaches 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees centigrade, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to boil, right? It might get warmer, and you might give up and turn off that fire underneath that when it's going to be, you know, before it hits 32. But your goal is to boil that water. You have to just reach a little bit more to cross that 32 mark for it to start, you know, for it to, sorry, not to boil, but for it to defreeze, you know. But before that, it was frozen. So the whole point is, in order for you to go for the water, for it to melt, you have to do a lot of actions in the beginning. A lot of actions in the beginning. You're not going to see the result, but eventually, applying the consistency, applying the zero compromise, that water is going to thaw. You know, it's going to thaw at 32 degrees, and it is important for you not to give up before that, because by the moment it's going to be, by the moment it's going to get, I'm sorry. So by the time it's going to get thought already, it's not going to be too late. But at that point, when it's already melted, you already achieved something. So it's important not to give up. It's important not to give in to the extreme circumstances, and continue persevering on that. Continue trying to do that, and that's why 75 hard is so much related to anything that we do in business.
That's really good feedback. What do you now, since of COVID, you're not going out and networking as much, in person. So what are you doing now to kind of stay on top of things? Are you calling people, or I mean, obviously you were out and about so much, at meetings, meeting people, networking, getting business that way. Like, what does it look like today for you because of COVID? Like, now that they don't have as many networking meetings and stuff, do you find yourself a little bit depressed because you're more of a social butterfly in a certain component? Like, so what are you doing now to kind of like network, I guess?
Yeah, so at this point, it's definitely, it was an adjustment for a lot of us, right? That's a thing, when we are applying specific pressure, like you said, I've spent a lot of times on these meetings. I definitely created my deal flow. I created my private lending flow on that. I solved the issues that I had while, I was applying the same pressure every day. I was a member of, over 200 different groups in the Bay, and whether the meeting was 5 minutes away from me or the meeting was 3 hours away from me, I was on that meeting. So, and that's the whole point, is like I was applying the same pressure. So when COVID happened, everything obviously died down, and I had to adjust. And I had to, just like everybody else, I had to adjust myself and the family to the current conditions, and we had to go that way. So what I started doing, with the COVID is, I would say, applying my skills into meeting people online, joining different accountability groups, joining different environment. How can I better myself at that time? So, how can the thing is, already I didn't have problems with financing at that point. I didn't have problems with the deal flow, but I realized, that COVID is going to change that drastically. And it did. It would have if we didn't do a lot of different changes. So in my case, what I specifically did, I joined different groups online, and I wasn't ashamed to show up, share my experience, and the most important thing, to give value to people. Give the value to people who are in a worse condition than I was. Who had the projects going at that time. I was lucky enough to I was selling my most expensive project to date right before COVID. And I think that's you referred to that in the beginning of the conversation. The project was on the market for a while, and it already, we could see the issues coming up, the pipe, and we would see a loss on that. It was over a $3.5 million project. So, but we got in the contract on March 13th of 2020, and sold it within 7 days. We were able to turn it around, make some profit on that, and make good profit on that, and come out of the situation. But a lot of people did not fare so well in that. So it was a matter of, during the COVID, helping other people who ended up in the worst situation that I was. And by sharing that knowledge, I've met a lot of great people. I've turned my business completely in a different direction, and I was able to grow. While helping others to get out of their situation. So, was an experience that I had.
Yeah, I think that's, if you're a builder or GC and you're wanting to get in real estate investing, right? Because a lot of these general contractors, they have their general contracting hat on, and like,
right,
they're doing projects for these investors. And you start seeing more and more general contractors like realize, like, hey, I could be doing this because I can, save a little bit on costs. I understand construction. You have the potential of becoming a good real estate investor, potentially, not all, because you can do a lot of this yourself. Like, and so because Tariel was networking so much over the last many years, he's like a problem solver, right? People would call him, hey, will you come walk this property with me? And through that, he did, sometimes you'd get a wholesale deal. Sometimes he would do a strategic joint venture. And I think that's a lesson that we should also look at, is that, use your skill sets what you have, like I have a financing background, so now I can maybe work myself in a deal because I can structure the deal, I can vet it out really well, but I don't have the construction. So like I might go and try to partner with like a Tariel who's got the construction, right? Because not all of us have the right skill sets to be a brutal, like a really good house flipper, right? Like I know what my skill sets are and where I'm going to fail potentially and where I'm not. So when you're getting into real estate investing, it doesn't have to be an individual business. It could be a team business. And, you know, partnerships have their own problems. We all have had partners in the past and some of them worked well, some of them haven't. But you can also, it also strengthens numbers if you get the right group together, whether it's a joint venture or one person's a money partner in the deal. There's lots of ways to do it. And I think that's the real power of networking that you do so well. And I see that like, you know, people, you're like a resource for so many people in the Bay Area because of your construction background. Because if you're buying a $2 million, you know, fixer upper in San Francisco, you better know what you're doing with the city, the codes, the permits, and you know, are you digging down? Are you doing all this kind of stuff? Because, you know, the permitting process alone in the Bay Area is a nightmare in some of these cities. So that's where I would see you get a lot of your businesses from people that didn't understand the construction. They're worried about that angle of it. And then that's a good way for you to provide value and sometimes get a deal from that. So that's, you kind of get most of your deals that way. It's because a certain level is that you feel comfortable with construction and you're willing to take on certain risks.
Absolutely. Yeah. And most of my deals, and I would say it's at this point is 85, you know, even maybe pushing 90%. It comes from my networking. It comes from my ability to solve those problems. You know, buying like a lot of flippers are into that, and you know, buying any kind of asset, whether that's a multifamily or whether that's a single family, commercial, residential, doesn't matter, but something that you can value add by, you know, putting the paint on. It's fairly easy to do, and you know, your room for mistake is much less. However, you know, in the market like right now, we don't have too many of those. In a market like right now, and especially in the market of 2020 of the COVID, what we actually had a lot on hands are the projects that people left behind. There were a lot of projects that people left behind. There were a lot of developers who were almost losing them, right? So, and that was my ability to help, you know, to help those people solve the situations. So whether that's, you know, that was related to the seller, whether that was related to the actual construction situation, but all of that helped me assist them, pull them out, help them make the money, maybe not as much as they were hoping for. But again, this is the thing, is like, you know, when we go for partnerships, we are hedging our risk. By bringing the people that have a little bit more experience, and I do that all the time too, you know, with my business, by bringing people that know more than I know. I'm doing that right now with out-of-state multifamily developments. By bringing people into those deals that are already versed in doing something out of state, let's say whether that's Florida or Alabama or Texas, doesn't matter which state, you know, today we were talking about Colorado as well. By bringing my solution skills, I am able to improve their deal and let them finish with success, you know, have a successful deal. So absolutely, you know, most of my deals, they come from that right now. We do, you know, our marketing in-house. We still, you know, do a lot of different things, but majority of the deals, they do still come out from that reputation and the ability to help other people minimize and hedge their risk in the deals.
Yeah, so because of your skill set, you know, as a lender, we've seen a lot of broken projects, right? Like even in a amazing market, not counting COVID and everything, a normal amazing market that we've had for years here in the Bay Area and many other markets, is that you know, even in a super highly appreciating market, projects fail. You know, everybody loses at some point, even in an appreciated market. It's really like a batting average, right? Like you're going to go up to bat 10 times and one or two times you're gonna strike out and lose maybe or break even on a project. The key is to have more wins than losses. But when you get some of these greener developers, and maybe they're not greener, they just take on too much at one time, right? Because we're all guilty of that at some point. But that's where the opportunities come in, and those are the most complex projects too, because buying or taking over a mid-construction project, it has so many more risks. But that's where Tariel or somebody with a high-level construction background can excel, because the average person doesn't even know where to begin, like trying to figure out estimates and was this done to code? Was this signed off by the city? What do I need to do to get the permit re-intact or put back together so I could, start the construction? Financing mid-construction projects is extremely difficult too. So a lot of times you can work out deals with that borrower that's running into issues, because maybe they can stay in the deal. I've seen a lot of investors come in, and because they have capital and they have new funding, they can come in, get a new loan and do some kind of profit share, where that original developer was going to lose their shirt, right? And then so you actually save them from not getting foreclosed on, and save them from not taking a loss, and potentially they make money at the end of the day.
Actually making money. And we had, I've had cases like this in, my experience developing here in the Bay. Definitely, I had fair share of those. And like you said, people were calling me and continue calling me when they have issues. Lenders continue calling me when they have issues, because, they have projects on their hands that are going belly up. Yeah. And, I think what you mentioned, I really wanted to touch base on that. A lot of newer developers and flippers, when they go into the project nowadays, they go based on an assumption. And you can't really do that. And especially you cannot really do that in a market where your margins are really squeezed in. We're seeing, squeezed margins right now in a commercial, in residential, on both of them. And I see, newer developers going into the multifamily deals, at very compressed cap rates and still hoping to make a buck out there, which is there again. A lot of times they're succeeding because the market kind of is going up, but at the same time, if the market is going to turn around, it's going to catch them really in a really bad situation. Like I said, I've been in the business since 2001, and I've seen that fair share of that. Happens also in residential, right? I mean, assuming on the contractors, assuming on the possible ARV, they're pushing this. And I think the biggest mistake I've seen is that assumption. When we go into the deals, and I can vouch, I've done a couple of mistakes like this, maybe even more than a couple of, when I was assuming, and every time that I was assuming, I would get burned for that. Most of the times, maybe 90% of the time, it's a mistake in this business to assume. It's a mistake when you're dealing with, the money that belongs to investors. It's a mistake to assume anything. So you have to double check, you have to cross your T's, dot your I's as much as you can to make sure that project is successful. Again, because there's going to be issues that are going to come at you. And that's the beauty of the business, the risks that we take and how we're able to solve that. And, that applies in the business, and that applies in your health. You have 75 hard, same thing, I'm going to compare that, to the 75 hard in terms of, if you have to do 2 workouts on a 75 hard, each one of them has to be 45 minutes. One of them has to be outside. And then one of them has to be outside, doesn't matter whether it's raining, snowing, if it's, icy out there, you have to go and work it out. You have to work out. If you started your first workout at 7 o'clock in the evening, you have to, do your second workout sometime before you go to sleep. If you don't go to sleep for 24 hours, that's pretty much that is your curse. Another thing also, to make you uncomfortable, there has to be at least 3 hours between the workouts. You cannot do one workout at 7 o'clock and do a second workout, at 8 o'clock. No, you have to space them out at least 3 hours apart. Why? So it's uncomfortable. And that's what happens in our life, right? We have these uncomfortable situations. We have to get ready for them. How are we going to solve them? We have to have that mental toughness to persevere. And then I've been cases, I have projects all over Northern California where I would be driving to, let's say, from San Francisco to Tahoe to check on our projects out there, and then come back around 12 o'clock at night. And I had to do that second workout. or I had to do both of them, and not to sleep, until 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was, cold here. It was raining here, or it was snowing in Tahoe, and it was just like it was coming down hard, but you still do that. But the point is, if we prepare ourselves in advance, doesn't matter what we do. If we think that through, the day ahead, week ahead, whatever ahead, and we don't assume, if we plan to succeed, we will succeed. Without the plan, we will not succeed. And that applies to 75 hard, that applies to, your typical development. Again, it doesn't really matter, but that mental toughness applies to both of those factors.
I love it. And I think, guys, if you're listening to us, so what I take out of that is, when you're doing your numbers, when you're pulling comps on properties, like what your ARV is going to be is if it's in a local market, you should be driving these properties. You should be really knowing what the market is, what your ARV is, because you've been lucky lately, because the market's appreciated. When the market slows down, that's when it really counts. And we don't know when that time's coming, but it will come. And so, you're hedging, you're really understanding the market. You're getting the best comps you can. You're really, driving them either on Google Earth. You're looking at, like, am I on a busier street? I only have a 1-car garage. I'm a 2-story, they're a single story. Get really good at that. Figure out the ARV. Get really good at, if you're not in the construction trades, get really good at getting a detailed scope of work and a construction line on a budget, and making sure you know who the contractor that you're working with, their skill sets, make sure you have a written agreement, make sure they have insurance, all that good stuff. And take the extra time up front to really convey. And oftentimes it's not the contractor's fault. It's your fault for not setting the right expectations. So, like, when
Communication.
It's communication. So that's the real, having the discipline to do all that stuff, right? Like, I'm working on buying some properties remote. I'm never going to see them. And it's a little scary, right? Because I'm not going to walk them. Of course, I'm going to get a good home inspector. I'm going to have the property manager walk the properties, take videos, but I got to do what I can to hedge my risk that I'm making a bad decision. And what are my numbers? How long is it going to be able, to lease up these properties? And I think that's the point that Tariel is stressing, is like, every day, whether you got a deal or not, you're practicing your art, you're perfecting your craft, you're getting better and better at it, and you're consistent. And, that's why I wanted you on the show today, is because, you practice what you preach, and you're always progressing forward one way or the other. You're always challenging yourself. And I look at that, and I try to do the same thing, because it's so important to be challenging yourself, because really nobody cares, in the big scheme of thing, nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about Tariel, other than our loved ones, obviously. But, the person that you got is right here, right? That's the biggest thing that's going to ever make you change, is between your ears. You can hear your wife or your family telling you to, lose weight, you're unhealthy or whatever. But really, everything is between the most important real estate is between your ears, right? In your brain. And so I always appreciate how determined you are, but yet you're at peace with yourself. You don't compare yourself to others. You're always trying to improve, and you're always in search for personal improvement. And I think that's
how to be better today than you were yesterday. Yeah. Absolutely. What can you do for that small thing?
Yeah, I love it. Hi, this is Bo Eckstein, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. I appreciate you checking out our channel. On this podcast, we talk about real estate, investing, financing, business lending, and acquiring and expanding your business. I'm sure you will find some videos here that will help you build your business empire. There's a lot to see. Take your time and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again. I want you to really listen to this podcast, because we didn't really get deep into real estate, but I think if you listen to the principles, like the principles of the 75 hard challenge is the same principles you need for your real estate investing business, whether you're a real estate salesperson, you're a mortgage broker, you're a buy and hold investor, you're a flipper, you're a multifamily investor, you want to buy and sell short-term or manage short-term rentals. It all comes down to discipline and really understanding your craft. Tariel, any parting words for our audience here?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm going to repeat myself multiple times, and that's going to be the last time I'm actually going to bring it up as the consistency. Imagine, if you are whether you're working on your health and fitness, whether you're working on your business in terms of the real estate development, the consistency is important. We've all made mistakes of in every fact out there, but if we look at any of at all of the factors that go into the real estate development, into flipping, into be successful in that, we have major contributing pillars to that. One of them is marketing. Second one is it's a financing. The third one is actually the construction, and those are the pillars that actually that you depend upon. Make sure that you apply daily, consistent, no compromise action to each one of them. To marketing, if you're marketing and you're getting deals from the agents, make sure you network with agents. Make sure you speak to at least one new agent every day. Make sure that even if you are successful in the current projects, you're consistently doing that every day. You're consistently marketing every day. If you are using outside sources of the financing, and we are talking about private money lenders and hard money lenders, make sure that every day you make a point to talk to a new private money lender, to somehow address that, to take action, to improve in that. Because what happens is, if you don't have one of those lined up for next deal, that deal might not happen for you. And the same thing with the construction. I always look for the great skill out there. Contractors, having a successful contractor, finding a successful contractor is a big deal. If you're able to find one, and you will continue looking for one, and you will find one. But you have to make sure that consistently, daily, weekly, you have some actions related to that, so you don't lose what you have, and you add to that pool as well. So those are the three biggest pillars that I think that go into our business. And doing that consistent, zero compromise action will make sure that you are successful in what you do. In this specific case, it's real estate, or it can be health and fitness. It can be some, improving yourself. It can be family. It's whatever is important for you. Maybe it's all of those things. So make sure you apply that same consistency and zero compromise when you're doing that. So these are my parting words.
I love it. I love it. And I love you, and thank you for sharing and coming on and spending your valuable time with our audience. And you're always dropping nuggets. You're always giving and contributing to everybody, right? And so
Thank you.
That's good to see, because not everybody's willing to share and go the extra mile for other people. And I wish more people were like you, quite honestly. But hopefully one day you'll rub off on enough.
It's a privilege. Thank you, Bo.
Enough people. But anyways, guys, I hope you like and subscribe to this channel. I hope you get a lot of value out of this episode. It's a little bit different than we usually do, but I'm always trying to bring on unique guests that can bring value to you guys, because that's why I do this show, is for you. And I'll continue doing them until you guys stop watching. So anyways, we'll see you on the next episode.